Right. We just discussed about variables thoroughly, right? But we just started with arrays and then we just stopped there. Okay. So next thing is what exactly mean by an array? Yesterday we discussed, right? What whenever we need to store the collection of values and all, then generally we use array. Array is nothing but which will be used to store the collection instead of a single value. At the same time, again, the array is two types. One is a fixed size array and second one is a dynamic array. Then when you say fixed size array, then the size will be fixed in the beginning. That means whenever you are defining an array, then you must have to provide the size, okay, number of values that you are going to place in that array. Then in the remaining piece of program, then you will not be able to resize that array whenever the collection is increased. But at the same time, when it comes to dynamic array, then in case if the collection is being updated, now in the beginning, in the first page there are some values, in the second page there are some other values. Then as soon as I move, then only I will realize how many values have come. So that I need to increase the size based on the number of values that I have got new in the middle. Then like this, the values are the collection is keep updating. Then I need to update the collection of size of the array whenever the collection is increased. So in such cases we use dynamic array. You got fixed size array and dynamic array. Then again I told you that array has got the dimensions. Okay, so no matter it is a fixed size array or it's a dynamic array, then for array we have the dimensions. Then what is meant by dimension? Each collection will become as a dimension. Generally when you take an Excel is two dimension. Rows is one dimension, columns is another dimension. Okay, and at the same time an array can have not only just two dimension, it can have multiple dimensions. As I told, generally an array can have maximum of 60 dimensions. Okay, an array can have maximum 60 dimensions, but in the real, then we don't use this many dimensions. The maximum we use is 2 dimension or the 3 dimension up to, but above 3, then generally we have never used, in fact. And even we don't get such kind of situations where we use more than 3 dimensions. But when we use multiple dimensions, or like whenever we need to retrieve the values from Excel, or whenever we need to retrieve the value from database, or there are certain tables in the application, then we need to retrieve the values from there, and then I need to store in an array. Then in such cases, since the values in the Excel or values in the database are stored in the form of table, then what we need to do is, in array also we need to store in the same format, in the rows and the columns format. So rows is one dimension, columns is another dimension. So 2-dimensional it will become as. But sometimes what happens is, okay, when you are retrieving the data from an array, it will be like this: number of sheets, number of rows and columns in each sheet. Okay, first sheet, first row, first column, first sheet, first row, second column, first sheet, first row, third column, like that. First sheet, second row. So how many dimensions it is coming here? 3-dimensional way. Second sheet, first row, first column, second sheet, first row, second column, like this. Sheet is one dimension, rows is another dimension, and the column is another dimension. So if you want to store the dimension data in multiple dimensional way, then you can use these many dimensions. You got what I'm saying here? So this is how we need to use arrays. Now let's understand how exactly that can be implemented, or how exactly arrays will be used in real. Okay, then so first thing what you need to do is we have to declare the array. Then how do we declare the array? Again, so the same statements, but no constant statement for an array. Okay, no constant statement for array. You can use public, or you can use private, or you can use dim for. And in the same way, and remember one more thing here, when it comes to the scalar variable, right, then I mentioned one point saying declaration of a variable is not a mandatory. That's what we discussed when we discussed about variable. But when it comes to an array, then you can't use like that. It has to be declared. But there are certain functions or there are certain situations where a scalar variable can be converted into an array. In such cases, you don't need to declare when the conversion is happening into an array. But when you're directly using an array variable, then or you must have to declare the array. The reason because script has to understand whether you are using a dynamic array or you are using a fixed size array. To make it understand, then first you need to make the declaration of that array. Then it will understand is it a dynamic array or fixed size array. Okay, so remember that when you are using an array, but when you are doing a conversion, like there are some functions which converts a scalar variable into an array by applying, by storing or passing the collection of values to that variable. So in such cases, then you don't need to declare an array. You can directly use the variable, that variable will become into an array automatically. But when you are not converting a scalar into an array, you are directly using an array variable. In such cases, declaration of array is mandatory. Okay, then how do we declare the array? So here I'm just giving the variable name. You can give any name here. And my array is just a name of the variable. That's it. It's not mandatory that you have to provide the same name again. And if you declare the variable like this, then it is a scalar variable. That's how we declare the scalar variable. But how the array will be declared is you have to use something called parenthesis there. In the brackets we call it as the parenthesis. Okay. So whenever you declare an array, and whenever you want to declare an array, a variable, and then you must have to place the parenthesis there. Okay. Then again, that's how we declare the array. But array has got two types, right? One is a fixed and dynamic. How can we specify it's a fixed size array, or how can you specify it's a dynamic array? So when you say fixed size, right, then whenever you make the declaration of an array, you must have to define the size of that array. You must have to specify the size of the array. Now, say my array of 5, or my array of 6, or my array of 10 or 20. Depends on the number of values that you do have. Okay. So now when you specify the size like this, dim my array of 5 or any size whatever you want based on number of values that you have, then this becomes a fixed size array. But when you provide the empty parenthesis like that, then that becomes a dynamic array. Okay. So how do you define a fixed size array? How do you define a dynamic array? That whenever the array is declared, if we provide the size of an array while declaration, then that becomes a fixed size array. If we give empty parenthesis without any size while declaration, then that becomes a dynamic array. Got what I'm saying here? So that's how generally array will be declared. And if you say multiple dimensions, then you have to specify like this. 4, 4 means 5 rows, 5 columns. First dimension is for rows and second dimension is for columns. But let it be for second dimension, we will use first one dimensional first. That is one dimensional array. What is it? Sorry? It's maybe one row or one column, but it's 5 rows here. Only one column. 5 rows and only one column. That means only one column but 5 rows you can store. Or one row, 5 columns. Anything it could be, just one dimension it is. You just can't say it's a row or column. Okay? Then now when I say my array of 4 here, then how many values I can store in this? 3. It's 5. But when you take other languages, right, maybe Java, .NET, all those, when you say 4, it will be 0 to 3. So when you say my array of 4, then it will remain 4 values only there, and it will be 0 to 3 in other language. Okay? But here, in the VB script, when you say the index is 4, then my array 4 or 5, 6 or whatever, then it will be 0 to the maximum. So the 4 what you have specified is index. As we discussed yesterday, then index starts from 0. Okay, so then values will get assigned from 0th index to 4th index, then total 5 it would be. Okay, so now let's understand how exactly the memory will be created for this. Then let it just go to open. Now whenever you say like just variable, I mean without it's not an array now, it's a scalar, then the memory will be created like this. That's it, with only one cell. So whatever the value that you want to store, you can store in this. That's how for a scalar variable the memory will be created, just with 1 byte value, then with only one cell in the memory. But if you say now my array of 4, it will be like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then each one gets 0, 1, 2, 3. Each cell gets its own index number. Whenever you want to refer any of the cell there inside that array, then you just have to refer the index number whatever is given for that. So first cell will be given as index number 0, second cell will be given as index number 1, 2, 3, like that. You got what I'm saying? So that's how the memory will be created whenever you create an array. But when you create a scalar variable, only one cell will be created, so that it doesn't have any index number or anything. You can directly say enter the value into that cell, that nothing but the memory. But when you define an array, then the memory will be created like this. In the memory, it will not just a single cell, depends on the index number that or the size that what you have provided, and those many cells will be created. Okay. Then now what we need is, okay, I have created the memory. How can I store the values into these cells? That is the question. Then what you need to do is, as I told, you have to access a particular cell by referring the index number of it, and then you store the value into that. Then how can I access the first cell in that array? It's very simple. When you say my array of 0, when I say my array of 0, then it will access the first cell, whatever the index number or whatever the cell given for index number 0. Then if you store the value here, I'll just say test. Then if you apply like this, what happens? It will go here. It will just update here. So what I'm doing, I'm just accessing individual cell by using the index number. Then if you want to go for a second one, you say my array of 1 equals to say test 1. Then it comes here. Do like this. Similarly, you can go for 2, you can go for 3, you can go for 4. And in case say now here, maybe test 3, test 4. How many values I'm storing here? 4 values, but still 5 values have been stored here. The reason because even though if you have not used any of the index number there, I have used index 0, index 1, index 2 and index 3 and index 4. Index 2 was ignored. But even though that index was ignored, but it doesn't mean that no value is placed inside that. By default there will be empty value placed. Okay, remember that. It's not like, so when I say 4 here, my array of 4, what does it mean? I can store 5 values, right? How many values I have stored? 4, but still there are 5 values, but one of the index is containing empty value. Okay, so now some people what they do is, okay, now I'm assigning only 4 values, but as per the defined I can assign 5 values. Then some people what they do, will it work? It won't work. Then what you are trying to do is, even though you are trying to assign the 5th value, but index number matters there. What is the maximum index number that we have provided for we have given for that array? 4, right? So you can assign 5 values, but those 5 values should be assigned to the index numbers 0 to 4. Even though if you say no, I'm assigning the 5th value, but it should accept no, because you are going beyond the index. You are assigning the 6th value there, in fact, because even though you have not used any of the index number while assigning the value, but still there will be an empty value placed. It doesn't mean that that will be null or that is ignored. There is a empty value placed, okay, by default. Then by accessing that particular cell, you can update the value. So whatever the 5 values that you store there, it must be in between 0 to 4 only. You can't access the index number 5, because there is no cell given or there is no cell created with the index number 5. And let's see what happens now if we give like this. What's happening here? It says that subscript out of range. Okay, so number 5. That means when you get this error is subscript out of range, when you have the collection, right? And here one thing is, in this context we defined the array size based on our own, and we are manually assigning the values to each index number. But in the real it may be a little different. We don't assign the values to each and every index number individually. Generally what we do is, now we have a lot of methods available in the tool or maybe in the script, where instead of getting an individual value from the application, we get the entire collection of values once. Okay, so now let's say for example I have a drop down list, maybe country list. Then what we do is, okay, so to store all the country names whatever are there in the drop down, then I will create an array first. I'll say an array of 0 equals to first value in the drop down, array of 1 equals to second value in the drop down, array of 2 equals to third value in the drop down. So instead of doing that one by one, then what you can do is, we have certain methods. Take the entire collection, all the values once from the drop down as an array, that means collection of values, assign the entire collection into an array. Then the index number will be automatically adjusted. First value in the drop down will go to the 0th index size in the array. Second value in the drop down will go to the first index number of the array. Understanding what I am saying here? Okay, so the index numbers will be automatically adjusted. But here, since we have not gone to that level yet, then we are assigning the values individually, so that you may get the question saying that then what makes difference here? Again, when I assign array of 10, then individual value I need to assign. For scalar variable also I was doing the same. Individual value I was assigning, right? I was taking one by one variable and I was assigning. Same thing I'm doing here, but only thing is, only the declaration is making difference, but array again each and every individual index number I'm assigning. Again it takes the same amount of time what was taken for scalar variable, but as I told, then this will be little different in the real. So you will understand much better when you get such kind of situations. Okay, then let's come back to the scenario here. See what we got the error. So subscript out of range, right? When you will get this error is, now assume that okay, there is certain number of values already given to that array. Array size is set based on the collection of values that we got. Then whatever the values that we want to retrieve, then you have to first, you must have to provide the index number only. To retrieve the value, you must have to provide the index number. Then there is a maximum index number set for the array, depends on number of values that we need to store or number of values returned. Now as per this array, there are 5 values I can set, so that index is given as 4. But when you try to give the index number which is beyond the given size, assume that from the drop down I got 20 values, then index numbers will be automatically set to 19 there. Okay, because that will be the maximum index number. 20 values means 0 to 19 it is. Then if you try to retrieve the value from 20th index which is not available, then you get the error saying that you've gone out of range. So range is 0 to 19 only. Then when you give the index number 20, then you got out of the range. That's what subscript out of range meant for. Similarly here, then what is the index number we have given for that? 4, my array 4. But for which index number we are trying to assign the value? Index number 5. So index number 5 is out of range for the array. For that array, index range is 0 to 4. So whatever the index that you want to use, or whatever the value that you want to assign for 0 to 4 only for any index number. But you can't go beyond that. You can't go beyond 5. So beyond 4. Whenever you go beyond that, then you will get such kind of error. You got what I mean here? So why that error is? So whatever, if we have fifth value, so understand which index number is not used. Say, no, that is valid. Okay. Then one more thing that we need to understand is here. The values, right? Whatever you have given, as I told, array is not constant. The values whatever we have given here are dynamic. I mean, you can change the value at any index number at any time. So now if you see that, okay, my array of 0 has got some value, then what I can do is there, after some time in the middle of the program, then assume I just got some change and then I'm updating the value for index number 0. So I'm doing some change. I just given junk value here, but generally in the real we give the original value. So what I mean to say here, what you need to understand here is any index number, whatever the value that we give here, that value is not a constant. That means, you can update the value to any index number at any time in your program. Understanding? Okay, so a little important to understand here, because arrays is one of the key thing that we must have to make make use of it mandatorily. Okay, so even in interview point of view also, then you will get many of the questions related to array. Then one more is, which makes the difference from other languages to VB script here. When you define an array in a Java or in C# programming or such languages, even array also you define with data type. You say string, or you say numeric, or you say object, or whatever it is. But an array also gets the data type. Then inside that array, whatever the index number you are using, for every index number to that array or every index number of the array should have the same data type value, same type of value. So that means when I define the array as a string, then all the values should be string values only. Okay, so if I assign one numeric value to any of the index number, then it won't accept. Getting what I'm saying here? So when I say in the other languages 0 to 4, whatever I have given there, right, 0 to 4 the index number, all these index numbers should have the same type of value, not the same value, same type of values. And that means string or numeric or anything based on what type that you have defined. But in VB script it is not like that. Array also again variant. Every index number is a variant there. That means that you can assign any type of value to any index size. Now let's say for example, the first index I have given as a string value, I have given within double quote, and then second one I'm giving some numeric value for second index, and for third index I'm assigning boolean value. For fourth one I'm assigning I'm assigning date value. So if you look at that, each index is, has got different, different data type of value, right? You got what I'm saying here? So in array, in the VB script, it's not like that every index number, or we need to store the same type of values, or all the values which are related to same type, like same data type, maybe all numerics or all data strings or all the dates only, nothing like that. And for any index number you can assign any kind of value except object, because the way we access the object or the way we access the value little different. So except the object you can assign any type of value to any index number. And let's see, I will execute this, and if it throws me an error, that means it's not accepting. But if it doesn't throw any error to me, then that means it is accepting. So it says syntax error, line number 7 it is. I'm sorry. So it's not recognizing as a date. Now it is fine. Huh?
Two index numbers are accepting.
Which one?
Two index numbers.
I mean, values can be duplicated here. I mean, there is no restriction in the values. So what I mean to say here is, it's not like, it has to be unique, data type has to be. Here for two index numbers I have given string, or give all the index, all the string values only, and you can give any value. That's what I mean to say here. No, see, here, only the latest value will be there. Only the latest value. It will overwrite. It's not like, two values will be there. And here, the line number 14, I'm just overwriting the value, whatever is stored in the, Yeah? So in array, you can store, when you define an array, it's not like you have to give only particular type of value, on only date value or only string value. For any index number, you can provide any type of value. Okay, so that means array is variant, again inside each index number is a variant. Okay, fine. So this is how generally we use the array. We store the values in the array. So first you declare the size of an array, and then whenever you want to assign, first refer to each and every index number. If you want to assign to the index number 0, you say so and so array of 0 equals to the value. If you want to assign to the second index number, you say so and so array of 1 equals to value, so and so array of 2 equals to value, like that. We will come to later how we can retrieve the values from it, and then first we will understand how we can store the values in an array. Then for retrieval part I will come. Okay, so slowly. Then the next thing is here. Using a dynamic array. This is fixed size array. Then how do you use dynamic array? Then you provide the empty parentheses. Provide the empty parentheses here. Then what is the use of dynamic array? The size will be increased whenever the value, the collection is increased, right? So as per that definition, then I have declared that array, then I store the values. Then initially there were 5 values, so I assigned 5 values to that array. Then later some part of time, then I've got some more values, then I'm just using another. So I'm just trying to increase the index number. Will that work? Let's see what it says. Subscript out of range, line number 4. That means index number 0 itself giving the error. Index number 0 itself going out of range. Then what happened here? Let's take some simple examples here. Okay. Now, you are buying a phone, okay? So there are two things. You have an iPhone and you have maybe you take Nexus also, and you take a Samsung phone. You know what I mean to say here? When you buy an iPhone, how it will be, how the memory will be given for that? Fixed memory it is, 8 GB, 16 GB, 32 GB, 64 GB, like with some limit again. But here you can give any size, no problem in the array. But in that phone, you will get only with fixed size. Will you able to resize it? You will not be able to resize it. Right? The reason because it is fixed. If you want to resize it, go to the manufacturing place and then reset the memory and all. That it's a little difficult to do. So whatever the collection of values that you have, the applications you have, or whatever the data that you have to keep within the allocated memory for you. That is the fixed size array. In fact, when it's a dynamic array, what they will say, expandable memory. Does it mean that the memory will be automatically expanding? It's not. It is not automatically expanding. Say, okay, let's say for example, why I choose phone, in some of the phones, 0 internal memory, probably you will get, but they'll say expandable memory it is. It doesn't mean that you can directly throw the values into that memory. It doesn't mean that you can directly throw the data into that memory. What you need to do? You need to again, so the memory is expandable. They said it's a memory is dynamic there. But again, you have to define the size, depends on the size of values that you have. Now let's say for example, I have only very limited data. Then what I will do here, I will insert 2 GB code in that. That means I'm allocating some memory to that, for that, dynamic array or the dynamic memory. Then I can store the values into that. Similarly, in case if the size whatever I have got, if that size is not sufficient, I have got more amount of data, then what I will do? I will take the 2 GB out and then I will insert 4 GB. Right? So that means memory is not expanded automatically. I did it because I got more collection than I asked the memory. Okay, so this time use this much memory. Then 8 GB, or I can increase. So instead of automatic expansion, then you are increasing it. So initially you increase it with 2 GB, or you defined the memory size with 2 GB so that we have stored some values. Then after that, okay, the memory was not sufficient for us, then we took 2 GB out and then we inserted 4 GB. Then we could insert more values into them. Got what I'm saying here? So that's what the dynamic array also work. It's not like, when you say array is dynamic, then you can assign the values to any index number directly, or you can directly increase the value, or we can directly assign to an index number. What we need to do is, once we get the array, even though it is a dynamic array, but there will be no cell created. It just gives you a memory where you can expand it, whenever you need it. But it doesn't mean that it comes with the cells automatically, or the cells will be created in the memory. No cell will be created. It will just give you a blank memory, that's it. No cell created inside it. Then what you need to do is, here, once you got the collection, then again you need to arrange that memory into specific cells. Okay, now I got the 5 values. Then whatever the memory that I have got, then resize or redefine that array with 5 cells. Then I got more collections. Not only 5, this time, okay, after some time I got 2 more. Then the memory, whatever you got, redefine that memory into 7 cells, so that I can store some more values. Then I got some more values, then okay, redefine the same array to 10 cells or 15 cells, like that, depends on the number of values that you got. Understanding what I'm saying here? So whenever you define a dynamic array, it's not like that, you can store the values directly, but you need to redefine it with some cells, and then we need to store the values into that. Let's take another example. Take, okay, this room, okay, institute. Then assume we got this much hall. Assume this is a dynamic memory for me. Initially when I do this, then they are just given with this. Now can I directly ask to sit the people into this hall? Then when I directly ask the people to sit in the hall, where they will sit? Right? No seat arranging, nothing happened here. Then where they will sit? Immediately will come back and say that no, there is no chair to sit. I can't sit into that. But there is a lot of memory, you can go or sit anywhere. You can't do that. But what I need to do now, I started with the 10 people. When I started with the 10 people, what I will do? I will just make 10 seats there. Then each person I will ask, okay, you go and sit in first seat, you go and sit in second seat, you go and sit in second, third seat, fourth, like that. So what I am doing, the memory whatever I have got here, I am rearranging and providing some cells into that. That's called redefining. Then in case if those 10 are not sufficient, I got 5 more people joined after some time. Then what I will do? I will redefine it with 15 chairs. Like that I can keep increase or I can keep decrease whenever required. That's how the dynamic works. So what I need is here, I have declared a dynamic array. When I declare a dynamic array, it creates with some empty memory, blank memory first. Then how many values I have got now? I have got 5 values. Then redefine the array, the dynamic array, whatever it is, redefine it to store the values, 5 values. Then I can say, it's not dim this time. To redefine an array, you should not say dim. Write down the statement called ReDim. Statement name is ReDim. Single word it is. ReDim. Okay. ReDim. ReDim. You can't use republic or reprivate, something is not there. Only ReDim it is. Okay. So that's called redefining an array. ReDim is used for redefining an array. Write down. ReDim is used to redefine a dynamic array. Redefine a dynamic array. See, it has to be a dynamic array. Whenever you want to redefine, it must be a dynamic array. Redefining a dynamic array. Redefining a dynamic array. Okay, so that's what ReDim stands for. Then what happens is ReDim, nothing but the inserting the memory card here with some size. Okay, so whenever the given size or the size whatever we have defined, then whenever that size is not sufficient for us, then you can ReDim it anytime wherever required. Now assume that, okay, so what I have is, I have the collection of values in an Excel. Okay, then all the values should be stored in an array. Or assume I've got a Google search. Okay, so Google search is my application. When I got Google search, then okay, when I entered the keyword, it has given a lot of results for me. When I got a lot of results for me, then those results won't be displayed only in one page, right? So it will be categorized into multiple pages. But take this kind of situation here. I don't know how many results have been returned. All the results have to be stored in one array. But I don't know how many results have been returned. Since I don't know how many results have been returned, from keyword to keyword, then the result collection will be changing, right? Can you assure the same amount of results will be displayed for every keyword? No. Keyword is nothing but what you enter in the search field, right? Then, so in such cases, what we need to do is, when we don't know how many values will be returned, I cannot make it as a fixed size array. Because when I want to make it as fixed size array, I need to say only these number of values is stored. Since okay, the value collection gets changing every time, I need to make it as a dynamic. Then, So what I need to do is here, since I cannot get the whole number of values once, all the values I cannot get once, I have to go page by page. Then what I have to do? First I will count the number of values there in the first page. Then I will define the array. Assume there are 30 values in the first page. Then I will say ReDim the array of 29. What does it mean? 30 values I can store, 0 to 29. So I will loop from first to last and I will store each value into a specific index. Then once all the values are completed, then I will move to the next page. But I don't know how many are there when I'm in first page. I cannot understand how many are there in the second page. Then once I move to the second page, then I will count again how many are there. I cannot go back to the declaration state and update the size of an array. What I have to do, as soon as I move to the next page, and as soon as I count the values, there itself I need to update the index. Earlier the index was 29 because the previous values were 30. Now I got 20 more. Then 29 plus 20 this time. Then 49. Total earlier 30, now 20, 50 values. Then remaining 20 I have to assign to the from 30th index number to 49th index number, so that I can assign. Then I move to the third page. In the third page I got some more values. Again I need to update the index number based on the number of values that I have got in the third page. Okay? So like this, I need to keep resizing the array depends on because I don't know how many values I'm going to get in the next page or in the next function or somewhere in the same flow. So since I don't know, I'm not able to predict, then I make it as dynamic. Then based on the initial size what I have right now with me, I will define the index size accordingly. Then once I'm done with this values, then I will do some transaction or I will move to the next page or somewhere. Then again I will count how many are there. Then I want to assign those values to the same array, right? I will count how many are there. Then I will ask my array to, increase your memory or increase the amount of cells based on the new values that whatever I have got. That's called redefining. Then how do you redefine? By using ReDim. Okay, ReDim is the statement which we use to resize or redefining the array. Dynamic array again. It has to be dynamic array. Remember, if it is fixed size array, then it cannot be redefined. That means ReDim is not applicable for fixed size array. We'll see that.
Continuous numbers.
Sorry?
Continuous numbers.
It continues.
30 to 50.
30 to 50. You can say, right? Yes. Okay, but there is something that you need to understand. Just wait for some time before I answer to your question. Okay, so now it is a dynamic array, right? Now what you can do is here, we'll say ReDim my array of 4, because I have got the 5 values. I am redefining that array to index number 4. Sorry? You have to, when you are redefining, you have to specify the size, not in the beginning. Because as I told, now whenever you know how many values have come, redefine accordingly as per that size. We have to know. We will understand that. We will know. In certain situations, probably we don't know. Then in that case, generally what we do is, we will loop from first to last or until end, from beginning to end. Number of times loop is executing, and then array has to be increased with one value at a time. So initially, first time when loop is executing, update the index number with 0, ReDim my array of 0. Second time, 0 plus 1, 1 plus 1, 2. So number of times the loop is executed, then that many times the index number will be increased. But we have various ways. When we don't, array size has to be defined, no matter it's a dynamic or it's a fixed. But the only difference is here, fixed means you are giving in the beginning, dynamic means you keep updating, depends on the situation. Okay, so now initially I have given 4, index number 4. That means I can assign 5 values. Then later assume that after assigning the values, I got some other amount of values. ReDim my array of 6. What does it mean? Am I assigning 6 extra or am I assigning 2 extra? For 4 to 6 I am making, or directly, 6 extra I am adding here. Adding 2, right? 4 to 2 I am just extending. That's all, right? Okay. So now, what I am doing, I am assigning to 5, because till 4th index number I have already assigned the values. Then val 6. Then my array of 6 equals to val 7 assigned. After some time again I got some more values. Then again I can redeem. So you can redefine the array size n number of times. There is no limit saying, you can redefine only once or you're redefining only twice, nothing like that. And n number of times you can redefine the array size. Okay. Now, what I need to do is I have assigned the values, and so say in the middle I got some extra values also. Then I increased the size, and then what I did, I increased the size of an array, and then I stored the more values. Fine. Till here that is okay, it works fine. Okay, so when I run the script it should not throw any error, and it won't throw also. Next, what I need to do is I need to retrieve the value from an array. Then when it says retrieving the value from an array, how do you retrieve? In the same way how you have assigned the value, in the same way. So this time what you do is just refer to, whenever you want to retrieve value from an array, you must have to refer to the index number, specific index number. Retrieve the value which is stored in index number 3. Retrieve the value which is stored in index number 2, or retrieve the value which is stored in index number 0, like that. So you must have to refer to the index number. Then how do you do that? You say my array of 0, something like that. But not assigning the value. When you are assigning the value, just to say so index number equal to value. But when you are retrieving the value, a variable equals to rn so index number. Then what I am doing is I am just saying a var or my val something. So now whatever the value is stored in index number 0, that value will be passed to var. You got? Then I will use message box var. What will be the output here? Test. Coming. Right? Test. Whatever is there in 0. Fine. I am retrieving here. After redefining the array, again one more time, I am retrieving. So I did not, after redefining, I did not change the value for the index number 0. Then what should be returning? Both the times it has to return as test. First time, first message box. What happened? Where did that value go? Did I change the value? I have not changed the value to index number 0. What happened? Okay, I will use for other index number. I will use index number 1. That's first message for 0 or 1. I will use one more index number, 4. First one. Sorry? Index number? No. We have already given, we have given, right? But the value is not coming. Index is accepting. I mean, if index is accepting, there's a reason it's giving at least empty. Yeah, if the index is not accepted, that means if it is gone range, it would have thrown the error. but it's not throwing the error. At this time what I'm giving is, I've given 5 or F5. It is giving the value. What you just got here? The values whatever I have assigned before redimension, those values are gone. The values whatever I have given after the redimension, those values are there. For 5 and for 6 it is there, but from 0 to 4 those values are gone after redefining an array. Yeah, that's what happening. Then that's where you need to understand thoroughly about ReDim. Okay, so now that's why I asked, is it extending or is it creating 6 extra? But it's not doing both. It's not 6 extra it is creating, at the same time it is not extending also. Then let's understand what exactly it is doing. Let me open the Excel. Now I said my array of 4 ReDim. That's what I have given, right? So now how the memory is created? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then this is 0, 1, 2, 4. Assume I've got val 1, val 2, val 3, val 4, val 5. I stored like that. Then what I did after some time, my array of 6. This is what my expectation is, the extension of the previous one. Then val 7. So whenever I retrieve the value, then it has to retrieve. I mean, whenever I provide an index number, it has to. So this is what we thought of doing, right? Let's understand how exactly it takes the ReDim VBScript. Whenever you use ReDim, VBScript will not think that user wants to extend the existing memory. It will not think in that way. But how it thinks is, okay, whenever you use ReDim, existing memory whatever is available, probably user, this is not sufficient to the user. Let me do one thing. What I did, delete it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what happened here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What it did? It recreated the memory. The existing memory, it eliminated or it erased the existing memory and it recreated the memory. So whenever you use ReDim, it's not like, it will extend to the existing memory. It will clear the existing memory, it will remove the existing memory or delete it. It recreates the memory with the number of cells whatever we have given this time. Now, after ReDim my array of 6, what I have did to which index number I have assigned? I said my array of 5 and my array of 6. Only for these index numbers I have assigned. So I have assigned here. Now what is there from 0 to 4? Empty. Only for index number 5, index number 6, it is available. That's what happened there. But that should not be like that, right? Again, what I need to do, whenever I need to redefine, whatever the values I assigned earlier, again I need to assign. Then only those values will be available. But if I do like this, then what is the point of using dynamic and what is the point of extension? Right? That's wrong. That's how VB script considers whenever you use ReDim. Every time, whenever, if you use one more time, you say ReDim my array of 8, then again or 10, or it's like only not only two values, you can increase n number of values at a time, index number. Then it will erase this memory also, then again it recreates the memory. So 1 to 0 to 6, again all the empty values it will become. When it erases the memory, it will erases the values as well in that. So no values have been considered in the next redimension. Got what I'm saying here? But what I need is here, then I don't want to reassign the values again and again to the same index numbers, because when I do that, then that will be a problematic form. So what I should ask my script is, okay, you redefine the memory, I don't mind, however you do, but I want this many cells, that's it. But whenever you are redefining, if you are recreating the memory, then the values whatever are there in the existing memory, preserve those values to the same index numbers again. That means reserve those values and place those values into the new memory, so that those values will come into the same index numbers again. So the values whatever were there, place those values back into the index numbers. I need to ask my script, then only script will consider it. If you don't ask, then nothing will happen, or the values will be erased. Then how do you reserve those values? Then write down keyword preserve. Preserve. I will write this. Keyword name is preserve. Okay. So preserve in a sense here, write down the definition for this. Whenever we redefine the array, it erases the existing memory and recreates the memory. It will erase the existing memory and recreates a new memory. When it recreates the memory, whenever it erases the existing memory, all the values in the memory will be erased. When it erases the existing memory, all the values in the memory will be erased. Okay? But this preserve keyword will help to reserve the previous values into the new memory or in the new memory with the same index numbers. Reserve the previous values in the new memory with to same index numbers. Okay? Got what I am saying here? Then now let's see. This is how the syntax will be. First time, since there were no values, nothing assigned, so you don't need to use preserve. But from second time onwards, whenever you are redefining, you must have to use preserve. Syntax is like this: ReDim, preserve it is. But it cannot be shuffled like preserve ReDim. It should be, syntax will be first use ReDim, then preserve, and then array with a new size. You can also decrease the size, remember. Even decreasing the size also will eliminate the memory and it will recreate. So even if you are decreasing the size, you say ReDim preserve so and so array of new size. Then let's see whether those values will be, earlier it was giving blank here, right? Sorry, I will give the old index. It was giving blank, right? There. Now let's see whether it will give the value or not. Whatever the value stored in index number 4, that value is displayed. That means even after redefining, then still the values are there. That's what preserve meant for. Reserve the previous values into the new memory, which is very important keyword. Now, next time onwards, whenever you are redefining, you must have to use preserve. If you miss one time also preserve, then all the values will be erased. One time also. Assume I am redefining 6 times. Then first 4 times I have used preserve. But 5th time I forgot to use preserve. Gone. All the values will be gone. So every time whenever you redefine, so you have to use ReDim preserve. ReDim preserve always. Okay? So this is how generally a dynamic array will work. We will stop here today. You can't do the scalar, right? You can assign only single value, that's it. No ReDim mandal, not for scalar, only for array. Okay? So, but later I will show you how you can convert a scalar into array. I mean, tomorrow you will get those functions. We will be starting into functions. First, I will explain 2 dimension and then I will explain assigning 1 by 1 value. That's what I told, right? You can assign a single collection directly. I'll tell you, it's very simple. Okay. Which one? Here. No, it doesn't have any cell and all. No. You must have to do this. Mandatorily you have to. Okay? You must have to redefine the size. Then only it takes. Because your array has to understand how many values that you are going to place in that. Then according to that it will allocate its memory. But if you don't provide it, then it cannot understand. Okay? It cannot understand. Which one? Yes. Yes. By default empty value. If you don't use that index number, but empty value will be there in that. Correct. As soon as you provide the index number, it will allocate there's many cells and empty values will be placed. And then?
So empty value also
you can also provide the empty value like this. If you want to give it. That's how you provide the empty value. I mean, when you are explicitly making it. Whenever you want to erase a value also, you just erase with empty value. It's not like erase directly, and you place the empty value for that. So the existing value will be erased. Or other way is, there is a keyword called empty. You can just say it as empty without double quote, remember. Okay, tomorrow you will understand multi-dimension. At the same time, you will start with some of the functions. Clear? Yes.